I thought I was the golden child of the office. For 3 years, I was the first person in and the last person out. My boss, Marcus, didn't just call me his right hand, he called me family. I believed him. I worked through my sister's wedding, I skipped vacations, and I took on the projects nobody else would touch because Marcus promised me that this year, everything would change. He promised me the senior director role and a bonus that would finally pay off my student loans. But last Tuesday, at 7:15 p.m., in a silent, dimly lit office, the illusion shattered. I had forgotten my car keys on my desk. I'd already clocked out, but the elevator was taking forever, so I jogged back up the stairs. The office was quiet, or so I thought. As I approached the executive suite, I saw a sliver of light spilling out from Marcus's half-open door. He was still there. I was going to pop my head in and say goodnight, maybe make some joke about us both being workaholics. But then I heard my name. My breath hitched. Yeah, Sarah's handled everything. Marcus's voice was low, but the acoustics of the empty hallway carried it perfectly. He sounded different. Not the warm, encouraging mentor I knew, but cold, calculated. She's documented every single transaction on the Thorn account just like I asked. She's even used her own digital signature for the final approvals. There was a pause. He was listening to whoever was on the other end of the line. Then he laughed, a sharp, jagged sound that made my skin crawl. No, she has no idea, he said. She thinks this is her ticket to the top. She's so desperate for that promotion she hasn't even noticed the discrepancies in the offshore filings. By the time the auditors flag the missing $400,000, I'll be halfway to the Caymans and Sarah will be the one holding the bag. It's perfect. She's the full girl and she's doing all the paperwork for her own funeral. I felt like I'd been doused in ice water. My heart wasn't just pounding, it was slamming against my ribs so hard I thought he'd hear it. I stood there, frozen, my hand inches from the door handle. $400,000. He was framing me for embezzlement. All those special projects he had me sign off on, those weren't for the promotion. They were breadcrumbs leading straight to my front door. I realized that every late night I spent helping him was actually me building my own prison cell. My vision blurred for a second, but then a cold, hard clarity took over. I didn't burst in. I didn't scream. I did something much better. I pulled my phone out of my pocket, hit the voice memo app, and held it to the gap in the door. I recorded for 10 minutes. I heard him talk about the shell companies, the falsified invoices, and how he'd manipulated the IT department to route the signatures through my IP address. He sounded proud of himself. I stayed there until I heard him stand up to leave.
I ducked into the supply closet down the hall, my heart in my throat, and watched through the slats as he walked to the elevator, whistling a tune, looking like a man without a care in the world. As soon as the elevator dinked, I ran to my desk. I didn't just grab my keys, I grabbed my external hard drive. I knew exactly where the files were. For the next 3 hours, I wasn't an employee, I was a forensic accountant. I found the hidden subfolders he thought I hadn't seen. I found the emails he drafted from my account using a delayed send plugin I didn't even know was installed. He had been planning this for months. But Marcus made one fatal mistake. He thought I was too desperate to be smart. He thought my loyalty was a sign of weakness. The next morning, I walked into the office at 8 a.m. sharp. I looked him right in the eye. "Good morning, Marcus," I said, my voice steady. "Big day today." He smiled that fake, fatherly smile. "The biggest, Sarah. We're finalizing the Thorn audit. Ready to make history?" "Oh, I'm ready," I replied. I went to my desk and sent one single email. I didn't send it to Marcus. I sent it to the board of directors, the head of legal, and the local field office of the FBI. I attached the audio recording, the server logs showing the delayed sent emails, and the cross-referenced invoices I'd pulled the night before. Then I sat back and poured myself a cup of coffee. Around 10:30 a.m., 2 men in dark suits walked into the lobby. Marcus came out of his office looking confused. He actually tried to shake their hands. I watched from my cubicle as his face went from confused to pale to an ashen gray as they showed him the warrant. He looked at me, his eyes wide with a mixture of rage and disbelief. I didn't look away. I just raised my coffee mug in a silent toast. As they let him out in handcuffs, the entire office was silent. My coworkers were staring, mouths agape. My direct supervisor came over, trembling, and asked what was happening. I just looked at him and said, "He thought I had no idea." He was wrong. Now the company is in a tailspin, and the legal team is practically living in my living room trying to sort through the mess. They offered me Marcus's old job to keep me from suing the pants off them for the hostile work environment and the framing attempt. I told them I'd think about it, but first I'm taking that vacation Marcus promised me, and I'm paying for it with the whistleblower bounty the government just confirmed. Always listen at the door, guys. You never know who's planning your funeral while you're busy building their empire.